I could not put it down. I read this so fast. I wanted to know what happened. I wanted to know who it was. There was just so much toxicity. It didn't end the way that I wanted it to. I was kind of sad about the ending, but that's okay. I think that's probably what makes it such a good story, is that it doesn't end the way that you want it to. Hey guys, welcome to my recent reads. So I have a stack of 5 books that I wanted to share with you guys, and 4 out of 5 are from Book of the Month, and the other one I've had since I was in 7th grade. I am not the fastest reader in the world. I don't have like any audiobook apps or anything like that, so I read everything old school by hand. These are some of my most recent reads that I wanted to share with you guys. I will say that there are going to be spoilers. Just be aware of that. I'm gonna rate everything from 1 to 5 stars, and I would love to hear your guys' opinions if you've read any of these books. I love watching recent reads videos. I love getting people's different perspectives and point of views. So feel free to let me know if you've read any of these or if you plan on it, because I recommend most of these. So we're just gonna hop right in, and I'm gonna start with the one that I doubt any of you have read because I've never seen it anywhere, and that is Pirates by Celia Reese. This ended up being a 4 out of 5 star story for me. So like I said, I got this one when I was in 7th grade, and I do have a confession to make. I stole this from my 7th grade teacher. I apologize, Mrs. Strakowski. But we always had to read for like 5 or 10 minutes right away when we got to class, and she had a stack of books in case we didn't have any that we were reading at the time. So I took this one, and I never gave it back. But I took it because I love like pirates and pirate stories, and I thought this was a really cool cover. And then on the back it has the face of her handmaiden, which is also one of the main characters. So this book follows a main character named Nancy, and she has a love interest named William, of course. And basically she and William are in love, but then her father arranges a marriage for her, so she ends up moving to Jamaica, where her father owns a plantation, which is where Minerva, her handmaiden, comes into play. She does not want to marry this random guy that she's been arranged to wed. So she and Minerva, her handmaiden, end up fleeing together. And it's actually a really cool story. So they end up fleeing together to find a better life, and Nancy wants to marry William, but along the way they actually end up becoming pirates. And the twist of the story, and this is going to be a spoiler because like I said, I don't know if anybody is going to end up reading this because I've never seen it anywhere. The twist of the story is that Nancy and Minerva are actually sisters. They are half-sisters, and it actually ends up becoming a really beautiful story about sisterhood. And while they're pirates, they're fleeing from like this one pirate lord guy that, in my head, I picture Captain Jack Sparrow's father from, I think it's the 3rd Pirate of the Caribbean movie, and they end up like fleeing him, but they do end up getting caught by him towards the end, and Minerva ends up being like this super BA pirate chick and taking him out. But the ending was super rushed, which is why it was 4 out of 5 stars for me. The story kind of drags a little bit, but the reason why I still liked it is because it's super descriptive. I love good descriptions, and I know most people are like more about the story, which I am too, but I also really like to imagine what I'm reading. So I really love the way that she described the environment of where it took place and the people in the story. I just wasn't a super big fan about how the ending, like literally the big plot that we're like building up to of getting caught by this guy, it kind of just like it ends in 1 page of him just getting taken out suddenly. So I wasn't a super big fan of that, but that's okay. I still really like the story. I thought it was just a really beautiful story about sisterhood, and I do recommend this to anybody who likes that piratey kind of environment storyline and a really good sisterhood to read about. So my next read, this is a Book of the Month book, and people like raving about it, and I am so glad that I got to read it, and that would be The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. I don't know if it's Laura Davey or Dave, but it says Dave, so I'm just gonna go with that. But this was a 5 out of 5 story for me. I really loved the character development between Hannah and Bailey. So the stepmom and the stepdaughter, of course, at first it's kind of a typical relationship where Bailey hates Hannah and it's just kind of making her life really hard to be married to her dad. And it was just kind of funny because I saw a little bit of myself in that. Of course, it ends up being a really beautiful story of them kind of coming together, and the last sentence in the book had me crying because their development was so beautiful. Their relationship went from like hardcore hatred to something really beautiful, and it's just really refreshing to read a book that has like a growing development between mother and daughter, or mother and stepdaughter. And I just thought it was really beautiful. It didn't end the way that I wanted it to. I was kind of sad about the ending, but that's okay. I think that's probably what makes it such a good story, is that it doesn't end the way that you want it to. But I just thought this was really good. It was one of my first kind of like mystery thrillers. I don't know if I would consider this a thriller because it wasn't like a, oh my gosh, I need to pick it up and find out what happened, but it was one that I definitely read pretty quickly because I wanted to know what happened. Like, not in like an urgent thriller way, but in a good, I don't know, just kind of mystery way. Like, it's kind of hard to explain, but I love the descriptions of all three of them, of Owen, Hannah, and Bailey. The synopsis of the story is basically like the husband Owen, kind of has a double life that he's been hiding from Hannah, and he was keeping the secret for her safety and for Bailey's safety, and you find out what that is in the end. But I just thought it was really cool, and I also loved like where it was taking place. Like, this is the town that they live in. I just thought that was really cool. Like, I've never read a book or even really seen movies where this is kind of like where they lived. So this was a 5 out of 5 star for me, and I highly recommend this one. So the next book that I have is also one that's been pretty popular, although this is kind of like a love or hate from what I've been seeing, but I personally loved it, and that is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. I love this. So this was definitely a 5 out of 5 star for me, and this was definitely a thriller where I could not put it down. I read this so fast. I wanted to know what happened. I wanted to know who it was. So this is based in Scotland. A husband and wife take a vacation there, and they stay in this little church, and basically one of them, so they're having marital issues, and one of them is not who they say they are, and I really wanted to find out who it was. And you kind of find yourself like going back and forth between who you think like the issue is, so that was really interesting. The twist got me. So I guess the reason why a lot of people didn't like this was because the twist was super predictable, but I'm not one of those people that can guess the twist very well. Like, I'm actually really bad at doing that. My husband like will watch a movie and he like knows within like 5 minutes and ruins the whole thing for me. He's really good at that. I am not good at that. I cannot depict twists ever. So I did not see this one coming, and I really, really, really liked it. I was reading on the couch, and then all of a sudden I just went and my husband was like, what? And I told him, and he was like, oh, that actually sounds pretty cool. But I really loved it. So the whole book, I shouldn't say the whole book, but like most of the book is a lot of like letters that the wife has been writing to the husband throughout the years of their marriage, and it was just a really interesting twist. I think the characters' names are Adam and Amelia, I'm pretty sure, yeah. And so it says that Adam is a workaholic who has had face blindness his whole life, which means he can't remember what people look like. Like, he could not pick his wife out of a crowd. And I thought that was super, super interesting. I've never even heard of that. So I just thought that was a really cool addition to the book, and I think it made the twist even more interesting. And then Amelia says that she is sick of feeling unseen, which interesting because of his face blindness. But anyway, so this was definitely a 5 out of 5 star. The ending was like, whoa, like the last page I was like, okay. It was kind of intense, but it was still really good. So mystery thriller, if you like that kind of like weird twist, I definitely recommend this one. So my next read is another book of the month pick, surprise, surprise, and that is Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaughey. I'm not sure how you say your name, I'm sorry. But this was initially a cover buy for me, but I will say I was not a big fan of this book. This was probably like a 2.5 star out of 5 for me. So it was kind of initially a cover buy because this cover is absolutely beautiful. I think the trees are just stunning, and then it has like almost like little firefly glows all over it, but I was just not a fan. Like, there was so many toxic relationships in this book. I was getting so mad. So it starts out really, really slow. Oh, hello, sir. Okay. Are you good? Yeah, are you good? Okay. Okay, intermission. I can't move now. Okay, so this book starts out really, really slow, and it kind of dragged for a long time. It is based in Scotland, which I loved, but there wasn't that many like descriptions of the landscape, which was kind of a bummer for me. But it's about a character, or about a girl named Inti, who goes to Scotland because she is going to try to repopulate Scotland with wolves, which sounds like a beautiful concept, and the townspeople in Scotland are terrified and they don't like her because they don't want the wolves to... Sir? Are you serious? Because they don't want the wolves to kill their livestock or their children or people. And Rogan, what are you doing? You're acting crazy. Anyway, so the townspeople have an issue with Inti. Now, Inti's twin sister lives with her, who does not speak or do anything herself because she had a bad experience with her ex-husband, which is very graphic, so trigger warning for some assaults. That is actually really intense. But Inti takes care of her sister like fully, like bathes her, feeds her, like everything. And it's a super, super toxic relationship between them two. And so the twist of the book is supposed to be that, you know, people are being murdered, and of course people are like, okay, obviously it's the wolves, and the main suspect, aside from the wolves, ends up being the police chief, whom Inti is romantically involved with. And it's just... the story was just so slow, there were so many toxic relationships, and then the ending was extremely rushed. Like, it happened like within a matter of like 3 pages and it was done, and it was like, the heck. And so, major spoiler alert, so the love interest, he ends up getting his throat slashed at the end of the book, and it ends up being a person who does it, and he just like forgives the person like immediately. And like, there was just no... I don't know, there was no explanation around the ending, and it was just super frustrating, and it's just... this book was kind of a mess to me. I did not like it. I really didn't. So it was definitely like a 2 out of 5 star. And like, it could have been so beautiful because a lot of the descriptions and a lot of the storylines about the wolves and like the history and the science, like it could have been a really great story. But there was just so much toxicity between Inti and her sister, and Inti and this police chief guy, and it was just... it was so weird. The characters were weird. I didn't like that the characters were unpredictable. Like, I'm kind of like, I like to get to know a character and then like kind of recognize what decisions they made, or like what decisions they're going to make, like predict. And it just was not, that just wasn't the case here. And it was really frustrating. So yeah, I don't want to keep bashing, but I mean, you might like this book. I don't know. Sirs! Gentlemen, I personally did not like it. I was not a fan. So 2 out of 5 for me. Okay, so the last book that I have... it's just gonna sit on me. Okay, that's fine. Oh, you too? This is my life. Oh my goodness. This is literally my life. Okay, well, anyway. So the last book that I have is another book of the month book, and that is We Are the Brennans, and I think it's Tracy Lang. It might be Lange, but I think it's Lang. So this was a 4 out of 5 star book for me. It was kind of it's basically just like a family drama book, which I've never read before, but I thought it was pretty good. The beginning was kind of slow for me, but it ended up being a pretty good storyline, and there was a little bit of a twist at the end, and this was kind of just like a day read for a lot of people, I think. But the story follows the main character named Sunday, and she and her family are Irish, and she lives on the East Coast with her family, but for the past 5 years she's been in Los Angeles doing some writing, and she's actually been pretty successful, but she does not tell her family that. And she comes back to the East Coast because she ends up getting in a really bad car accident from drunk driving, which is not like her at all. But she and her ex-boyfriend Cale went through something a little traumatic that you end up finding out towards the end of the book as to why she left. And when she comes back to the East Coast from California, she finds that he's now married and has a son. And then there's also her brother, who's a workaholic, her other brother who's special needs, and her other brother who's trying to get his life together. It ends up being a nice family story. There's a little bit of like some mystery about their father's past that ends up becoming unraveled. And the ending was kind of like it was kind of a bit of a shock to me. But it was really good, and there is a little bit of a love triangle that goes on between Sunday and Cale, her ex-boyfriend, and then his current wife. And there ends up being a little bit of some drama. There were a few times when I kind of wanted to smack Sunday for making dumb decisions, but whatever. But I really did like this book. I would say I'm only giving it 4 out of 5 stars because the beginning did drag a little bit, and there was a little bit of toxic characteristics to her mom, because her mom ends up passing away when she's in California, and she ends up telling some stories about some conversations she had with her mom that I was kind of like, but hopefully Sunday learns to grow past that, which I think she does. But it is a nice little family story, and I did like it. And this was a debut novel, which I was really surprised by, because the thing that I loved most about this book was her writing. I loved the writing. I thought it was beautiful. I loved the way she described things. And the beginning of each chapter starts out with the same sentence of the last chapter, because it's a bit of a dual perspective. So I thought that was actually really clever. But I did like this book, so I do recommend this to anybody who likes just kind of like, I don't want to say family drama because that sounds like bad, but some family stories. I thought it was a pretty good book. Okay, so there you have it. Those are my recent reads that I've read over the last couple months. And I don't do any like audiobooks yet so far, so everything that I read is by hand, so it does take me a little while. So I did start a new book last night, which I'm excited to share with you guys, maybe in one of my next vlogs, but it is a really popular one that came out a while ago, but I'm still pretty excited about it. But if you've read any of these books that I've talked about, please let me know. I'd love to know your guys' perspectives. I love watching recent read videos. I love getting people's different opinions and viewpoints on things. I always read the reviews on Book of the Month, and sometimes my opinion gets kind of swayed. I'm like, oh yeah, you're kind of right about that. But anyways, I do hope you pick up some of these books. I thought they were mostly pretty good, and I'm excited to keep on reading and sharing with you guys and connect with you guys. So thank you so much for being here and watching my video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!